Hello, everybody, and welcome to Profiling Evil. We're talking ritual murder. Who is Chad Daybell? I'm Mike King, and I recorded this video after receiving a number of emails from you asking for kind of a Cliff Notes version of the Daybell murder case. This case has had some interesting twists and turns, and they mirror many of the behaviors that I've witnessed in other cults and closed societies. Frankly, if you'd like to learn more about cult recruiting and control techniques, pick up my book, Deceived, an investigative memoir of the Zion Society cult. You can find it on Amazon or go to profilingevil.com. And thanks again for the Cliff Notes recommendation. It's challenging to condense Chad Daybell's lifetime of wacky thinking into a short yet informative video. But let's give this a try. And I hope that we hit the mark for you. Would you please take a moment and hit the like and the subscribe button? Make sure you're ringing the bell so that you get notifications. And again, thanks for your support. Chad Guy Daybell was an unassuming guy by all accounts. He was born in 1968, raised in Utah, just a short drive south of the Salt Lake Valley. He's described by classmates as quiet and normal, or at least then. He certainly couldn't have been called a ladies' man, and he might even have been considered reserved or reclusive. He was raised in a family that followed the teachings of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. He believed the doctrine enough that he chose to serve a proselytizing mission in the northeastern part of the United States. The people that served with him thought he was a good missionary. Well, after he returned home from his mission, Chad met and married Tammy Douglas. He went to school at Brigham Young University, where he graduated with a degree in journalism. He worked a bunch of odd jobs through and after college, including the job that really stands out to me, that of a cemetery sexton, a grave digger. Now, if allegations are true, it would appear that he leaned upon this training to dispose of J.J. Vallow and Tylee Ryan. Chad Daybell had a peculiar trait that caused conflict with his mainstream religious beliefs. He felt like he was deserving of more inspiration and heavenly guidance than given to other people. Now, not only did he feel like he deserved it, but he also openly announced that he was receiving revelation from God. His fanaticism intensified, and his closest family members began distancing themselves from him. One, his brother, stated, "My immediate family has had little association with Chad the last many years due to our concerns with his religious claims and particular books that he had chosen to publish, including his own," close quote. Well, Daybell's extremism became so pronounced that he was reportedly excommunicated from the Latter-day Saint faith that he belonged to because he had strayed so far from the church's doctrine and teachings. They just couldn't maintain his membership knowing that he was teaching something that they didn't believe. Well, in 2004, Daybell started a publishing company to sell his end of times fiction and religious books, the same books that his brother Matt spoke of in that statement I just read. By 2015, he was hearing voices, and they told him to move to Idaho, Rexburg, and to begin sharing his doomsday beliefs with people of like minds. He became a popular lecturer through a group known as Preparing a People, and he had a podcast and lecture series called Warrior Up. They were filled with innuendos of his spiritual greatness. He was joined by others who thought and uttered the same messages, and apparently it was resonating with believers. It was during this time that he met Lori Vallow, a married mother who had her own fantastic stories of extreme religious beliefs. Now, what Daybell didn't know at first was that Lori was obsessed with him. I can only imagine how she turned on the charm during the occasion of their first meeting in southwestern Utah. Vallow made the 7-hour trip so that she could meet Daybell during a book signing. Well, before long, they were spending time alone. two married people finding spiritual and emotional strength in each other, certainly not their spouses. Chad Daybell's wife, Tammy, had no idea what was going on. She was busy raising their 5 children in Rexburg, Idaho, some 550 miles to the north. In the opposite direction, in Arizona, Charles Vallow was trying to hold his failing marriage with Lori together. I think Charles really loved Lori. He changed religions for her, and he worked tirelessly to provide for her wishes. Well, both spouses were being cheated on by their self-righteous egomaniac companions who now believed that they had been married 7 times previous in at least 7 different lifetimes. Chad and Lori were convinced that they needed to marry again, but first they needed to be single, and it couldn't happen by way of divorce. Now, I think that's because financially that would have been damaging. Anyway, it was then that Chad Daybell received a revelation that his wife Tammy would simply die so that he and Lori could be together. Daybell even spoke of his vision that she would die to other people. He was so confident, in fact, in his revelation that he even went out and increased Tammy's life insurance policies to a total of $430,000. It's strange how this self-fulfilling prophecy came to fruition. A mutual friend of Chad and Lori named Melanie said that she once asked them why they didn't just divorce their spouses so they could be together. Their answer? They explained that they had been instructed from spirits on the other side that they weren't allowed to. They assured Melanie that it would all work out, and then, of course, they continued their secret love affair. Well, unbeknownst to Chad's wife, Tammy, loved ones around Lori Vallow were dying and disappearing. And then things got personal. It was October 9th, 2019, when Tammy Daybell was assaulted in the driveway of her own home. How on earth is that possible? I mean, she didn't have any enemies. She was a school librarian, for Pete's sake. Her Facebook message said it all. She said, quote, "Okay, neighbors, something really weird just happened, and I want you to know so you can watch out. I had gotten home and parked in our front driveway. As I was getting stuff out of the back seat, a guy wearing a ski mask was suddenly standing by the back of my car with a paintball gun. He shot at me several times, although I don't think it was loaded. I yelled for Chad, and he ran off around the back of the house." 10 days later, Tammy Daybell was dead. Well, after Tammy died, Chad somehow convinced the coroner that an autopsy wasn't necessary. His seemingly healthy wife had died unexpectedly after a strange assault 10 days earlier, and yet somehow he was able to convince officials that an autopsy wasn't necessary. I'm still confused with the coroner's initial statement that there was nothing that looked out of place and no reason to do an autopsy. I mean, isn't a healthy, happy, and active person who unexplainably dies enough reason to look further? Well, within days, Chad published an essay titled, quote, "Moving into the Second Half of My Life," close quote. Can you believe it? The document appeared in a newsletter read by doomsday enthusiasts called Another Voice of Warning. In the article, he said, quote, "My dear wife Tammy passed away in her sleep early Saturday, October 19th. When I awoke at around 6 a.m., it was clear she had been gone for several hours. It came as a shock. I couldn't believe I hadn't been awakened somehow, but all indications that her spirit simply slipped away during the night. Her face looked serene, with her eyes closed in a slight smile. It was devastating to discover her that way, but I'm so grateful that her death was peaceful," close quote. When has murder been described as peaceful? Well, 5 days after the newsletter post was emailed to the group members, Chad Daybell married Lori Vallow on a Hawaiian beach. As he strummed his ukulele and they frolicked on the sand, he was also collecting $430,000 of life insurance money from Tammy. All the while, his new bride was making credit card charges on her recently deceased husband's credit card. While feigning such happiness, the pressure from law enforcement's dragnet to find those missing stepchildren must have certainly made him wonder if his little utopian world would soon implode. And it did. Lori was arrested and extradited back to Idaho to face charges related to her missing children. Chad would fly home alone. But on June 9th, 2020, Chad Daybell was also placed under arrest as investigators dug up the recovered remains of little J.J. Vallow and his sister Tylee Ryan. As Daybell sat in jail, law enforcement officials were exhuming Tammy Daybell's body. They performed an autopsy that remained sealed for many months. Then, in May of 2021, Chad Daybell was formally charged with murder. The indictment cited that Daybell, quote, did endorse and espouse religious beliefs for the purpose of encouraging and or justifying the homicides of Tylee Ryan, Joshua J.J. Vallow, and his former wife, Tammy Daybell, close quote. As Chad Daybell sits in an Idaho jail awaiting his murder trial, his new wife, Lori Vallow Daybell, enters a mental health hospital, with the state of Idaho hoping to restore her mental competency so that she too can be tried in the deaths of her children and her husband's former wife. Well, I hope this ritual murder, Who is Chad Daybell video helps you understand who Daybell is and what pathway he took that led toward this pending murder trial. Please like and subscribe this. Please. Profiling Evil really appreciate your help. Ring the bell, get the notifications, and please consider sharing this with your friends and your contacts. Now, I hope you'll watch for my new podcast on the Zion Society cult. It's coming out next month, and we are really excited about it. I think you're going to like it, and you're going to be impressed with the special effort the team has been putting into making it not only informative, but entertaining. Please check out the Daybell ritual murder timeline that we've created. You can find the link in the description below, or you can go to the Daybell story map at profilingevil.com. So here's the question I've got for you. Do you think Chad Daybell controlled Lori Vallow Daybell, or was it just the opposite? I'm really looking forward to reading your answers below. If you'd like to learn more about the Daybell ritual murder case, check out our YouTube Daybell playlist, and we'll see you soon at the next crime scene.